In the quest for enlightenment, we tread a path riddled with illusions. The journey within often leads us through territories unknown, where the light of truth can sometimes be obscured by the shadows of deceit. As seekers of spiritual growth, we yearn for guidance, wisdom and connection. But it is in this vulnerability that we must exhibit the greatest vigilance. For in the same way that darkness masquerades as light, there are those who wear the guise of spiritual guides, yet their intentions are far from pure. Today, we set forth on an enlightening journey to unmask the tricksters of transcendence, the charlatans who claim cosmic consciousness, yet whose actions tether us to worldly woe, swift to promise salvation and swift to tether your spirit. These 12 types of spiritual manipulators weave intricate webs of deception that can ensnare even the most discerning among us. Understanding their methods is not an act of judgment, but a declaration of discernment, a shield as we navigate the ethereal realms of our own awakening. The key to a fulfilling spiritual quest does not lie solely in acquiring esoteric knowledge or engaging in profound practices. It is also profoundly rooted in the ability to detect these manipulators early on. To safeguard our spiritual sojourn, we must develop a discerning eye, one that can peer through false promises and recognize the true essence of guidance that is meant to elevate, not ensnare. Only then can we freely walk the path towards genuine enlightenment, empowered by authenticity and unswayed by the grand illusion of those who seek to manipulate our soul's yearning for the divine. Join me as we voyage into the heart of truth, learning to recognize and avoid the finely spun snares set by spiritual manipulators so that our journey within can be one of unadulterated discovery and pure, unbounded growth. Manipulator number 1, the false guru. Glistening with charisma, the false guru stands tall, a seemingly unshakable pillar amidst the seeker's storm of uncertainty. They offer a treasure trove of answers, their every word wrapped in the cloak of spiritual wisdom, yet lacking the substance of experiential truth. These gurus weave elaborate tapestries of borrowed philosophies and fragmented doctrines, stitched together with threads of charm to allure the unguarded hearts yearning for enlightenment. Their tapestry, a distorted pastiche masquerading as an original masterpiece, tempts those who gaze upon it, entrancing their followers in a dance of half-truths. They are like sirens of the spiritual seas, their song beautiful yet leading many onto the rocks of confusion and disillusionment. Manipulator number 2, the Fearmonger. In the visceral grips of primordial instincts, the fearmonger reigns by exploiting the ancient echoes of survival that pulse within us all. Orchestrators of existential dread, they craft dire prophecies and cataclysmic forecasts, playing upon the invisible strings of angst that resound in the human psyche. To hear their message is to be swept up in a maelstrom of alarm, where the only salvation is clasped tightly in their own outstretched hands. The world they paint is one of shadows and despair, and they offer sanctuary, a sanctuary that exists only within the walls they have constructed from the very fears they propagate. Theirs is an empire of anxiety, built upon the quivering backs of those too terrified to question the very ground they stand on. Manipulator number 3, the psychic vampire. Subtle and shrouded in the guise of guidance, the psychic vampire moves undetected, their presence a comforting balm to the unsuspecting. They speak the language of healing and awaken hope in the weary spirits of their patrons. Be not deceived, for beneath their comforting embrace lies a heart steeled to the cries of empathy. They draw in the vulnerable, extending a hand that promises to uplift, only to covertly tether and entwine the very life force of their devotees with whisper-thin strands of dependence. Draped in robes of false light, they siphon silently the radiant energies of their congregation, their own aura swollen with the stolen vibrancy of others. As a wraith cloaked in benevolence, they leave behind a trail of withered souls, husks discarded after the feast, a feast that satiates not hunger, but the insatiable hunger for control and dominance. Manipulator number 4, the narcissistic healer. Behold the narcissistic healer. A mirror unto their own brilliance, they enter the sacred dance of restoration, not as humble servants, but as self-serving demiurges. Their very essence seems to radiate a mesmerizing glow, yet it is not the light of healing they emit, but the blinding sheen reflecting off their inflated self-image. Words from their lips may drip with the honeyed promise of transformation, but listen closely, and you'll find the tune is a hollow one, echoing the grandiose symphony of their achievements and saintly acts. In their therapeutic embrace, one is cuddled not into empowerment, but enfolded into the healer's own storyline, where the protagonist is forever and always the healer themselves. The journey of healing becomes a tale not of your own transcendental metamorphosis, but rather a subplot in the grand narrative of the healer's unending quest for admiration and validation. Manipulator number 5, the materialistic mystic. Cloaked in robes that ripple with esoteric symbols, the materialistic mystic peddles their wares at the soul's marketplace. With one hand raised to the heavens and the other dipped into your savings, they speak of the great spiritual transaction where transcendence is bartered and sold. The currencies of their realm are not merely energetic exchanges, but glitter with avarice and are palpable to the touch. To the materialistic mystic, the divine gift of spiritual awakening has a price tag, and enlightenment is a luxury commodity attainable through relentless tithing at their altar of prosperity. Disguised in their narrative is a clever alchemy that transforms the golden pursuit of higher truths into material wealth, theirs for the amassing under the veneer of spiritual progression. Their sanctuary becomes a temple where the impoverished spirit finds no refuge unless adorned with opulent offerings to appease the financial fancies of these faux prophets. Manipulator number 6, the love lure. In the twilight of our deepest human need for connection, the love lure glimmers like a beacon of predestined affection. Enticingly, they draw near those adrift on the ocean of emotional longing, whispering the ancient languages of eternal bonds and karmic ties. But behind the facade lies an intricate stratagem, each word, each gaze, each touch deftly spun into a net that ensnares the unwary heart. Under the pretense of profound spiritual connection, the love lure lays the foundations for a toxic edifice, bricks mortared with dependency and beams hewn from the timber of your own splintered individuality. They speak of unity and togetherness as sacred principles, but their love is a parasitic vine that wraps itself around your essence, suffocating the vibrant diversity of your being and replacing it with an all-consuming need for the love lure's presence and validation. In their embrace, your autonomy dims, and you find yourself orbiting their desires as a satellite, lost and devoid of the once burning core that was your unshackled sovereign soul. Manipulator number 7, the cultural appropriator. They step onto the spiritual stage, draped in a patchwork cloak, borrowed no, stolen from a myriad of cultures not their own. The cultural appropriator is a master of masquerade, collecting sacred symbols, rituals and attire as one might collect souvenirs, devoid of true understanding or rightful respect. With a veneer of worldliness, they purport to be your passport to ancient wisdom, yet their journey traverses no deeper than the surface. They commodify the profound, selling spiritual experiences as though hawking cheap trinkets in a market of mysticism. The damage they wreak suffuses deeply, eroding the bridges of cultural reverence, turning sacred practices into tools for personal aggrandizement and belittling the very traditions that they claim to venerate. Manipulator number 8, the doomsday prophet. Cloaked in the urgency of impending cataclysm, the doomsday prophet casts a spell of fatalism and fear to ensnare followers. With fire and brimstone fervor, they prophesy the end times, harnessing the primal human fear of extinction. Their sermons are heavy with the scent of brimstone. Their words ignite the air with a fevered pitch that dances on the edge of hysteria. These harbingers of doom build their kingdoms on the shifting sands of terror, holding their congregations hostage to visions of ruin. The doomsday prophet knows the power of panic to rally and ravage the human spirit into submission, ensuring that the flock remains fervently tethered to their revelations, hanging on every utterance as if it were a lifeline cast amidst the tormented seas of the apocalypse they conjured. Manipulator number 9, the mind control cultist. Enshrouded in the shadows, the mind control cultist orchestrates a symphony of subservience. They are the grand conductors of compliance, waving their baton to direct a performance where individual wills are crushed under the weight of collective obedience. Their rhetoric is seamless, a loop of dogma that filters out the light of inquiry, demanding uniformity in a chorus of consent. Conditioning masquerades as communion, autonomy, sacrificed on the pyre of pseudo-spiritual unity. The mind-control cultist deals in the currency of the psyche, their influence insidious as they embed their dogmatic tenets into the fabric of their followers' beings. Devotees are rendered voiceless marionettes, dancing on the strings of the cultists' wiles, their very identities consumed by the all-devouring dogma as they are subsumed into a singular, undifferentiated mass of absolute obedience and blind allegiance. Manipulator number 10, the totalitarian leader. Amid a congregation of seekers, the totalitarian leader stands as an imposing monolith, casting long shadows over the terrain of spiritual autonomy. With steely gaze and voice laden with authoritarian weight, they delineate the boundaries of belief with unbending conviction. This arbiter of righteousness imposes a monochrome worldview, each edict hammered into place, forging a constrictive cage around the once free-roaming spirit of inquiry. To bear the yoke of this leader is to walk a path hemmed in by unyielding dogma, where the song of the soul is muted and the dance of divine discovery is choreographed with mechanical precision. This manipulator's realm tolerates no dissension. Doubt is heresy, and personal growth is strangled by the dense undergrowth of rigid rituals and stifling statutes masquerading as spiritual directives. Under their domain, the journey inward is not a voyage, but a forced march towards a mirage of enlightenment, a hollow victory where the prize is subjugation masquerading as salvation. Manipulator number 11, the egotistical shapeshifter. Cloaked in the myriad hues of spirituality's spectrum, the egotistical shapeshifter is a beguiling enchanter in the garden of transcendence. Their essence is a protean flux, ever-changing, ever-elusive, shifting before one's very eyes to reflect the desires and doubts of those who surround them. The shapeshifter, a master of divine disguise, wields their malleable persona with the precision of a seasoned actor, each performance calculated to ensnare and enthrall. Their narrative is a labyrinth with no center, an ever-spinning wheel that captivates but never satisfies, a whirlpool pulling seekers ever closer to the vortex of their boundless need for adoration. In the arms of such a siren, your grasp on the threads of your own spiritual narrative becomes slippery and unsure, and the inner compass that once pointed true north now spins wildly, directionless, as you surrender to the overwhelming charisma of an ever-changing guide whose truest self is but an echo of 1,000 facades. Manipulator number 12, the Twilight Zone Guide. In the crepuscular hour between waking and dreaming, there emerges the Twilight Zone Guide, a spectral visionary who beckons from beyond the veil of ordinary perception. They hold court in the hallowed halls of mystic obscurantism, where the arcane and the unfathomable are served up like a feast for the famished psyche. Through cryptic riddles and cloaked in secrecy, the guide conducts a symphony of the surreal, each movement a tantalizing half-truth drenched in the opium of otherworldly promise. Their proclamations are oracles drawn from the deep well of cosmic hallucination, draped in the gossamer fabric of unverifiable insight. To journey with them is to lose oneself in a fog-drenched landscape where every landmark blurs into shadow, where the map to understanding is etched in the ever-shifting sands of celestial riddle. Their wisdom, though intoxicating in its profundity, is an astral mirage leading only to the precipice of dependency and the void of bewilderment. As we've journeyed through the tangled web woven by spiritual manipulators, awareness has been our guiding star. At Sage Snippets, our mission is to illuminate the nebulous and ensure that the integrity of your spiritual quest remains inviolate. We've unmasked the 12 artifices of deceit, not to instill fear, but to arm you with wisdom, the sage's sword, to wield on your path to true enlightenment. Our camaraderie in this realm of Sage Snippets is our stronghold against the sly whispers of false prophets. Here, within our vibrant tapestry of seekers, your experiences are echoed in the hearts of many. With every video watched, with every nugget of wisdom shared, know that you are knitting tighter the fabric of a community resolute in its quest for authenticity. Now let's finesse our spiritual intellect with a sprinkle of cosmic humor. Why don't spiritual manipulators make good astronomers? Because they always believe they are the center of the universe. Jokes aside, every chuckle shared is a reminder that our collective journey need not be solemn to be profound. On this channel, Sage Snippets, thorny spiritual quandaries find their answers, and laughter rings as a sanctified melody alongside introspective whispers. Before I sign off, I pose to you this inquiry, ripe for the comment section below. Have you encountered spiritual manipulators on your journey, and what beacon of truth helped you navigate away from their shores? Remember, like the ancient trees of wisdom, growth rings are only visible in the cross-section of community, conversation, and connection. So click subscribe to root yourself in the fertile soil of Sage Snippets, like if you have shared in the light we spread, and together, let's grow towards the sun. With that, I bid you a serene farewell until next time, fellow travelers of the astral plane. Continue to contribute to the collective consciousness down below. And may your days be as balanced as your chakras, in a perfectly tuned alignment. Namaste.